economic activities. It negatively affected many of those in the heritage, tourism, and creative sectors. Once again, we express heartfelt condolences to families who lost their loved ones, and we express our solidarity to all heritage and cultural workers who lost their means of earning a living because of lockdown restrictions. Delivering her budget vote speech virtually in June 2020, the MEC for Arts, Sports, Culture and Recreation, Honorable Mavimbela, committed an amount of 10 million rands towards the KwaZulu-Natal Arts Relief Initiative. The fund was opened to all sectors, including Amakosi, Amabuto, women's groupings, NGOs, music and theater groupings. Compatriots, we also applaud the financial support to the KZN film industry that the Department of Economic Development and Environmental Affairs announced on the 13th of September 2020. COVID-19 resulted in closure of cinemas and many of our artists could not work. In response, Etia MEC, the Honorable Dube committed more than 32 million rands for development and production of home-brewed films. In addition, an amount of 1.6 million rands was also set aside to support local film festivals during this current year. Honourable members, we are pleased to report that recently our province was successful in getting at least 2 historic sites declared as protected national heritage sites by the South African Heritage Resource Agency through the National Heritage Resource Agency Act of 1999. In its preamble, the Act states that, I quote, our heritage is unique and, oh no, I do not quote, let me correct myself. It says our heritage is unique and precious and it cannot be renewed. It helps us to define our cultural identity and therefore lies at the heart of our spiritual well-being and has the power to build our nation. It has the potential to affirm our diverse cultures and in so doing shape our national character. And using the Act, SARA, South African Heritage Resource Act, has since declared the Sibudu Cave in KwaDukuza Municipality a national heritage site. Isibudu Cave ke malunga hloniphekile singaphansi kwelembe endaweni yaseNdwedwe. So Isibudu Cave it straddles between KwaDukuza and Ilembe, so a national heritage site. And in its statement, Sarah said the following about the exceptional heritage qualities of the Sibudu Cave. Itige isara amangi kapuna. Sibudu Cave contributes to human evolutionary history through its archaeological evidence of Middle Stone Age occupation, which dates to between 77,000 and 38,000 years ago. Archaeological excavations in the shelter have revealed evidence of some of the earliest examples of modern human technology. It is one of only 3 sites in Africa with evidence of early seashell beads older than 70,000 years ago. And Sibudu also has a rare collection of bone tools dating between 77,000 and 62,000 years ago. It has the world's oldest bone arrowheads that imply that bow and arrow originated in Africa and was in use more than 30,000 years before they were used elsewhere. And according to geoarchaeologists, the Sibudu sediments are remarkable and amongst the best in the world for identifying behavioral moments in time. Among other finds, Sibudu has the world's oldest evidence for bedding made from sedges, grass, and leaves. The shelter is currently used for spiritual purposes, while the forest around the site is utilized for herbal medicines by the local community. And due to its uniqueness, Sibudu received international recognition as one of the most important sites of its kind and has been nominated as a World Heritage Site as part of the emergence of modern humans, the Pleistocene Occupation Sites of South Africa series nomination, I close quotes. Phoenix Settlement, honorable members, has also been declared as a National Heritage Site. Phoenix, we also are happy to learn that SARA has declared the historic Phoenix Settlement a National Heritage Site. And on the 2nd of October 2020, the Premier was honored to participate in a webinar commemorating Mahatma Gandhi's birthday in 1869. It was at this birthday celebration that we also celebrated the good news with Freedom Stalwart Comrade Ila Gandhi and the Phoenix Settlement Trust. We have also committed that we will provide support to the trust to have the site declared a World Heritage Site, and we indicated that in our view, chances of success for such an application to UNESCO would be enhanced with the telling of both stories of the Phoenix Settlement side by side with the story of Ohlange Institute. We remember the words of Tata Nelson Mandela, who once remarked about the heritage and historic importance of this place when he said, I quote, "The Indian struggle, in a sense, is rooted in the African." M.K. Gandhi and John Langalibalele Dube, the first president of the African National Congress, were neighbors, Enanda, and each influenced the other. And for both men established at about the same time 2 monuments to human development within a stone's throw of each other, the Ohlange Institute and the Phoenix Settlement. Both institutions suffer today the trauma of the violence that has overtaken that region. Hopefully, both will rise again, Phoenix-like, to lead us to undreamed heights. I close quotes. We also recall that at the reopening of the Phoenix Settlement, which was attended by President Thabo Mbeki and Isilo, that His Majesty expressed the hope that this national monument will one day stand out as a beacon of reconciliation and peace. Honorable members, let me also state some of the milestones and legacy projects that we are working on as the province of KwaZulu-Natal. You will recall that in the State of the Province address in March 2020, we identified a number of key milestones and legacy projects. We mentioned that we are in a year where we are celebrating 60 years of popular Ukhozi FM and the 60 years of the founding of Ladysmith Black Mambazo. It is also 65 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter. We are pleased to know that in 2020, SARA has also finally declared the present-day Walter Sisulu Square of dedication in Kliptown, where the Freedom Charter was adopted as a protected national heritage site, which is very good indeed. This is also a year where Robert Risha would have turned 100 years old. And speaking during the adoption of the Freedom Charter, Robert Risha was prophetic when I said, I quote, "This ground on which we are standing today is holy. Friends, this shall be the monument of the people of South Africa." And he declared that the Freedom Charter will have greater support than any document that has been drawn. I close quotes. 2020 is a year where uOmrey isithwalandwe Utata Raymond Mhlaba would have been 100 years old. It is also the year of the centenary birthday of the Lion of the Midlands, Umtomdala Ubaba Herikwala. As the provincial government, we support the call by the Herikwala Foundation that his gravesite must be declared a national heritage site. We also support the renaming of Edendale Hospital after this revolutionary stalwart of the African National Congress, SACP, and SACTU. Honourable members, we also mentioned in the State of the Province address that 2020 marks 160 years since the arrival of our Indian compatriots who were brought as indentured workers on the Natal sugarcane fields by the British. The 16th of November 2020 is important for all the people of our province as it marks the arrival of the first patriots of Indian descent, and we are engaging with stakeholders to plan for this important commemoration, and in due course we will announce our program for celebrating this crucial milestone. Honourable members, all over the world, cultural heritage remains the lifeblood of the multi-billion tourism industry. There are few places in the world that are endowed with natural beauty like we have in KwaZulu-Natal province. We boast many unique historic and natural sites. We need to do more to develop heritage routes to these sites and put them on the itinerary of the tourists who visit our province. As a province, we have not done much to sell to the world our rich and diverse cultures. We call upon our tourism entities and cultural experts and historians to work together in order to harness the potential of cultural tourism in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal is home to many traditions and cultures. We are the home province of the legendary Zulu Emperor Uno Dumeshe Zikamenzi, King Shaka. We are the soil that gave birth to Gandhi's passive resistance movement and the non-racial Congress movement that finally defeated.
Honorable MEC, if you want to continue, we will take the time from the time of your response. Should we allow you to continue? Can you put the MEC on the spotlight?
Honorable Speaker, may I please proceed?
We will take your time from the response time.
Okay. I'm about to finish, Honorable Speaker. We are the land of Adam Kok, of Amahlubi, Abesutu, and Amabata. From our history of conflict with the Afrikaners and the English, today we are forging a new society founded on peace, justice, and human rights. Our heritage is not only located in our past, it continues to be produced today in our rural areas, cities, and townships. It is found in the sounds of rhythm of isicatamia, Maskandi music, gospel music, kwaito music, gqom, and the new urban beat of upiano. It was Amilcar Cabral who opened that the seeds of an economic revolution are to be found in a cultural revolution. As we reflect on our heritage, let us find all the things that unite us as South Africans and use the power of heritage to forge a common identity that is confident and at peace with itself and the world. Let us embrace our heritage and culture and use it as a catalyst for economic recovery. Let us return to the African philosophy of umuntu, ngumuntu, ngabantu, and begin a revolution that will restore the dignity of all the people of our country. Using the power of heritage and culture, we can create a society which is truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, equal, and prosperous. Amandla, I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. You've got 8 minutes, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, the first speaker for 9 minutes is Honorable MEC HGS Mavimela.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to honorable members. Before I start the debate, I am reminded of how far we have come in building a united nation which embraces diversity. This is a clear indication of the strides that have been made by the ruling party in ensuring that we overcome the divisions of the past and build a country that we see today. Looking back to 26 June 1955, when the Freedom Charter was officially adopted, our forebears who made sacrifices and fought for our freedom laid down their vision of future South Africa where everyone enjoys equal rights. It is not surprising today that the vision envisaged in the People's Document still form a strong foundation upon which our democracy was built. Honorable members, the important role of literature and culture was captured in one of the clauses of the Freedom Charter, which states as follows, and I quote, the government shall discover, develop and encourage national talent for the enhancement of our cultural life. All the cultural treasures of mankind shall be open to all by free exchange of books, ideas and contact with other lands. The aim of education shall be to teach the youth to love their people and their culture, to honor human brotherhood, liberty and peace. In his book, Steve Buko, titled, I Write What I Like, and I quote, part of the approach envisaged in bringing about Black consciousness has to be directed to the past, to seek to rewrite the history of a Black man and to produce it in the heroes who form core of the African background. People without a positive history is like a vehicle without an engine. Honorable members, literature is a big part of our culture. Different countries study books that shape nations, and children and adults will read them so that they understand what made their home how it is. Literature can inform people, it can share history, and it becomes the history of a certain place of the world. The documentation of an event or even a story made up can change a culture. As we rewrite history, our aim as Department of Art and Culture is to get our communities to tell their own stories and experiences. We have a rich history embedded through generations that still needs to be told. We will continue to stage various language programs to promote multilingualism and continue to provide support to reading and writing clubs as part of our efforts to encourage authors who write in indigenous language. Our language services section also has an Adopt a Club drive where publishing heroes are urged to adopt reading and writing clubs to assist them with writing skills and publishing tips, coupled with reading and writing materials. We also pride ourselves for the One Township, One Book initiative. This project is aimed at preserving the history of township in the province, especially that of political struggles during apartheid. Each financial year, 2 writers from different townships are commissioned to write books about their townships. As KwaZulu-Natal, we pride ourselves of being cultural and linguistic province, and the maintenance of our various languages spoken by various ethnic and cultural groups is critical for the preservation of cultural heritage and identity. The loss of language means the loss of culture and identity, which is why it was important for the department to champion the KwaZulu-Natal language policy for the provincial government. Furthermore, this was an imperative move to make sense of our constitutional obligation of affording everyone the right to use the language of his or her choice as the weapon for self-development to push back the frontiers of poverty. Ken Hale of Massachusetts Institute of Technology once said, and I quote, "As languages disappear, cultures die. The world becomes inherent, a less interesting place, but we also sacrifice raw knowledge and the intellectual achievements of millennia," close quote. The aim of the language policy is two. Number one, promote the use of 6 official languages in KwaZulu-Natal, namely isiZulu, English, isiXhosa, Afrikaans, Sesotho, and isiSwati by the provincial and local governments. Number two, elevate the status and advance the use of indigenous language of a historical diminished status used by the people of KwaZulu-Natal. Number three, to ensure that KwaZulu-Natal is a caring home for all by promoting multilingualism. Number four, support the Batopele initiative of impartial service delivery by promoting equal access to public services and programs by removing communication and/or language barriers. Number four, give increasing effect to the equal constitutional status of the 6 official languages. Number seven, empower and affirm speakers of previously marginalized languages. Number eight, foster respect and protect language rights, thereby avoiding the use of language for exploitation and domination based on gender, race, class, age, religion, culture, or sexual orientation, or language that condemns violence. Number 9, ensure social cohesion and improve relationship by promoting language diversity. Lastly, to create awareness about the needs of the hearing and visual impaired communities. Honorable members, the past few months have been challenging with the outbreak of COVID-19, but through it all and working together as South Africans, we have persevered and ignited the spirit of Ubuntu. Through this period, while under lockdown, it gave us an opportunity to reflect on several issues, including that of our heritage. It became clear that social cohesion and national building plays an important role in our well-being. Over the years, the role played by the cultural sector has been overlooked, but in recent years, there has been debates which highlight the role culture and heritage play in reviving economies. Culture is an essential component of human development, representing a source of identity, innovation, and creativity for all. Throughout the past decade, statistics, indicators, and data on the cultural sector, as well as operational activities, have underscored that culture can be a powerful driver for development, with community-wide social, economic, and environmental impacts. Of particular relevance is the cultural sector's contribution to the economy and poverty alleviation. Cultural heritage, cultural and creative industries, sustainable cultural tourism, and cultural infrastructure can serve as a strategic tools for revenue generation, particularly in developing in countries like South Africa, often rich in cultural heritage with substantial labor force. As I conclude, honorable members, great strides have been made. The reclaiming and restoration of our heritage cannot be done by government alone. It is collective exercise. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I want to request members that when the time is started the topic, just wrap up whatever you were saying, so that I don't have to intervene. The next speaker for 10 minutes is Honorable MP Gwala
of the IAP.
Honorable Speaker, heritage is important because it provides clues to one's past and how the society has evolved. It helps us examine our history and traditions and enable us to develop an awareness about ourselves. It helps us understand and explain why we are the way we are. It is unfortunate that we are celebrating Heritage Month with a dark cloud hanging over our heads, which is that of gender-based violence. The IFP recognizes the effort made by the government to deal with GBV. However, whilst appreciating this effort, the IFP is of the belief that the enforcement of policies and plans dedicated to fighting the abuse of women and children are crucial in preventing and bringing to justice perpetrators of GBV. Women and children in our society live in constant fear of being attacked, raped, or even killed by their loved ones or serial killers and rapists. We need to make sure that society focuses on all these issues until they no longer exist, which might never happen. That is why the IFP echoes the call from different quarters of society that people must use Heritage Month to fight against GBV, as no culture encourages abuse. We need to go back to basics where young men were taught how to be real men. This yielded positive result by teaching young boys to better understand that a girl or a woman is respected. Heritage Month must revive our conscience, and it must be a reminder that we have a responsibility to protect women and children from GBV. Therefore, the IFP calls upon government to sustain its effort in taking action against perpetrators of GBV and in holding to account the security agencies or persons who fail to deliver on their roles. GBV affects us all, and GBV make KwaZulu-Natal safe. Ngesintu nje umuntu wesifazane ayikho indawo ongamthinta kuyona noma ngasiphi isikhathi ungowesilisa. Traditional leaders. The IFP respects and recognizes the role of the institution of traditional leadership. In celebrating Heritage Month, the IFP urges the traditional leaders to institute measures that will help preserve the cultural heritage of the people. When there is a visible preserved culture, it will also guide the younger generation to live within the norms and traditions of their communities. Traditions and culture are the roots that can provide a peaceful atmosphere for the development of the people and combat disagreements, conflict, and divisiveness, among other things. Heritage site. The IFP believes that a province like KwaZulu-Natal has rich, albeit silent, cultural sites and magnificent flora and fauna. Conserving and protecting natural resources and cultural heritage sites can contribute to economic diversification through creating businesses and employment. Heritage sites and buildings play an important role in African communities by preserving history, identity, and stimulating pride in communities. The IFP believes that it is therefore crucial to take care of these sites to promote and preserve culture. KwaZulu-Natal is one of the country's fastest growing tourism sectors, and its rich cultural and natural heritage offer an excellent opportunity to boost economic development and improve livelihoods. Language. The IFP believes that while celebrating Heritage Month, it is also important that we preserve and protect our indigenous languages. The IFP urges the Office of the Premier to ensure that more is being done by the Provincial Department of Arts and Culture to promote and preserve languages. According to UNESCO and Taylor, quote, language and culture are two elements that are embedded in an individual as footprints of his or her identity. On the other hand, culture is a complex collection of knowledge, beliefs, arts and letters, value systems, laws, customs, traditions, modes of life, and any other capabilities and habits distinctive of a particular group, unquote. Further, UNESCO states that, I quote, one language disappears on an average every 2 weeks, taking with it an entire cultural and intellectual heritage. Thousands of languages are at risk of disappearing in the coming decades. 90% of human languages are expected to disappear from the earth by 2050, unquote. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to preserve and promote our languages, social cohesion. The IFP and the Duane of Social Cohesion, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, believes in the importance of social cohesion. That is why the IFP always supports any government initiative and programs aimed at fostering social cohesion. Social cohesion and nation building are among our country's greatest underlying challenges. This is not an easy task, given that our history has been one of violently divided our people and entrenching inequality. The National Development Plan, however, proposes that we can all make the necessary sacrifice to create the shared future that we can dream of. Let us all commit ourselves to this task and build a future that will stand in stark opposition to our past and where we will all share a sense of nationhood and common purpose. Therefore, honorable members, social cohesion can neither be decreed nor pontificated on by the hoi polloi from lofty heights, but will come as a consequence of deliberate and sustained effort to build a more equitable national democratic society. It seems incontrovertible that a society that is unequal will not easily achieve coherence, and that nation building is rendered more difficult and near impossible by inequality, poverty, and unemployment. Heritage is one that should unite and not divide South Africans. Our unity cannot be a unity that seeks to obliterate diversity, or it can accentuate and celebrate the diversity of our people. Our culture and heritage are indeed the pride of our nation, and such symbolism is a strong force for unity. However, symbolism alone can only eventuate in an ephemeral and tentative unity, emanating from pride in sharing a geographical space with great and talented human beings. Lasting and durable nation building is based on equality of incomes, not from or formal equality of access to opportunity. It is therefore behooves all who seek social cohesion and national unity to build an equal society through fighting against inequality, unemployment, and poverty. The new culture of materialism and lust for money seems to be the sole motivation of many people, including many in the top structures. We need to resist this culture of conspicuous corruption and greed, as well as the inevitable corruption that is required to sustain it. This selfish behavior runs contrary to our most valued and commonly shared cultural value of Ubuntu Butu. Instead of promoting that cultural tenet of our heritage, namely that the individual prospers when the community prospers, there are too many people in power who are popularizing the theory of individual prosperity at the expense of the community. I thank you, Somlomo.
The next speaker for 8 minutes is Honorable CJ Papas of the DA. Connecting. Senator Papas.
Can you hear me, Speaker? Madam Speaker, honourable members, heritage can be a deceivingly simple idea. In its simplest definition, heritage can be seen as the valued objects and qualities, such as historic buildings, places, cuisine, attire, and cultural traditions that have been passed down from previous generations. It is about the kaleidoscope of beads that make up the dresses of the maidens at the annual Umkhosi Womhlanga. It is the stories that are told around a campfire of men and women who left the Cape in their osovars to find a new life. Heritage, in its simplest definition, is the display and collection of old things that remind us of where we come from. It is the fragrances of spices and cuisine brought by the indentured laborers. And it is the statues and architecture of civilizations from across the sea. Our heritage is the one of the snow-capped mountains of Okhohlamba and the resilient and majestic rhino of Hluhluwe Umfolozi, and the familiar call of Inkwazi, the fish eagle, in the Isimangaliso Wetland Park. It is the coal buried deep in the earth and the clear, calm blue skies that we experience before the rumble of a midsummer storm. The bustling fresh produce markets, the dedication of Okoko Abadayisa Makwinye from the early hours of the morning, and the shining glass towers of Umhlanga or Umhlanga. It is the intricately decorated rickshaws, the brightly colored buses out of Phoenix, the beat of the drum in Zululand, and the two-tone khaki uniform of the farmers who toil under the unrelenting African sun. It is the minibus taxis, the vuvuzela, the cry of the jackal in the night, the banichao, gom, maskande, upiano, and the meandering lifeblood that is the Utugela River. In its simplest definition, heritage is a celebration of the unique features that have come to define our individual and collective experiences of each other and the world around us through taste, touch, sound, and sight. However, heritage can be far more complex than we realize. It is in its more complicated definition. Heritage is the subject of discussion and debate about who we are, where we come from, and what it is that we want to preserve for the future. It is about who owns the past and which version of the past is told. It is about who gets a voice and who does not. It is a discussion and a debate about who came first and where our collective history starts. It can also be a personal experience or interpretation from the perspective of the individual, while at the same time, heritage can be wholly public, a collective movement, or the will of the people. Heritage also works in two directions. It is not only about looking backwards, but also about looking forwards. It is knowing that what we do today will be the heritage that future generations inherit. These generations who will look back to see, to ask, what came of the discussions and debates that we have today? And more importantly, what burden will we make them carry? Do we want future generations to look back and be burdened like we have been burdened from where we come from? Or do we want them to look back and be liberated from the things that are holding us back as a country and as a province? Anger, hatred, and intolerance, deprivation and poverty to a grand scale, unbelievable greed. So this past month, we commemorated the vibrant and diverse sounds, tastes, and sights of a truly incredible province. Now, let us return to the hard work of creating our legacy, or the heritage of future generations. Isandlwana, or Blood River, apartheid, Mfecane, or the Shell House Massacre. These are all past events that people my age were not part of. We were born before or too young to remember. Yet we have heard of them or know a little about them, some more than others. And despite our varying levels of knowledge and despite how we see the biases in our recollection and interpretation, most of us know that these events have some impact on our lives and in some cases have caused pain, inequality, and suffering. Let us learn from the pain of what was experienced by older generations and ensure that what we choose to preserve for the future is better than what we have now. South Africa and KwaZulu-Natal, like many other countries, has a history, a heritage of conquest and violent confrontation, a nation and a province built through continuous fracturing and forging, conflict and resolution, war and peace, access and deprivation, difference and common cause. Our existence, our heritage, has been shaped by contrasting and contradicting narratives, by bloodshed, and by reconciliation. At times we have been the disgrace of the world, but also a beacon of hope. We have fallen to rock bottom, but stood up to tell the world that we have a story where diverse people unite. We told the world that we would define a common heritage of renewal, compromise, and courage, where we, the people of South Africa, recognize our injustices. We honor those who have suffered for the freedom of our land, and we respect those who have worked to build and develop our country. We believe that South Africa truly belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We even adopted a constitution, the supreme law of the Republic, to heal our divisions and the past of our society. We said that we would establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. We would lay the foundation of a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and where every citizen is equally protected by the law. We told the world that we would improve the quality of all our citizens and free the potential of each person. We told the world that we would build a united and democratic South Africa. Yet, today, we find ourselves in a poisonous, anxious, and impatient times. It is a self-inflicted evil that just does not want to let go. Honourable members, each one of us who is elected to lead and represent the people of this province, each one of us holds a very important responsibility. That responsibility is to ensure that every person born after 1994 does not suffer from our mistakes or from the greed and the failures that are so evidently present today. What will we do with this incredible responsibility? What will be our legacy in the positions of power and influence that we have? What will be your legacy in the province that you were elected in your community, and in your family? The choices that each one of us make can make a difference, and you may ask how. Because our legacy, the heritage that we are creating as members of this legislature, is the physical embodiment of our democracy, the manifestation of a world-leading constitution. In the words of the American civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr., violence never deals with the real basic evil of the situation. Violence may murder the murderer, but it does not murder murder. Violence may murder the liar, but it does not murder lie. It does not establish truth. Violence may even murder the dishonest man, but it does not murder dishonesty. Violence may go to the point of undermining the hater, but it does not murder hate. It may increase hate. It is always a descending spiral leading nowhere. This is the ultimate weakness of violence. It multiplies evil and violence in the universe. It does not solve any problems. So, Honourable Speaker, this Heritage Month, I would like to recognize and honor our Constitution, the selfless acts that went into creating it, and the ideals that we must continue to strive towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker for 6 minutes is Honourable A.B. Khoza of the FF. He has apologized. We will go to the next speaker for 9 minutes, Honourable N.N. Sibila Sapeta of the ANC.
Hlonishwa Somlomo, ngiyabonga kakhulu ngibingelele amalunga eshaya mthetho ngihlanganisa nezithunywa kwi-NCOP. Izimenywa zikaSomlomo zonke nabo bonke abathamela ukuhlala kwalendlu namhlanje. Sanibonani, Dumelang, molweni ma-Afrika unyakeni omusha. Somlomo, mangiqale ngokuthi ngibonge kuwe ngokuvumela undunankulu ukuthi asethulele lo mbiko noma isikhathi sesidlule, kanye nokusipha kwakho ithuba lokuthi nathi njengamalungu esishaya mthetho sisike elijikayo kuwo lo mbiko obaluleke kakhulu ezinhlelweni zokwakha isizwe esibumbeneyo esingacwasani ngobuhlanga nangobulili. Usuku lwamagugu emhlabeni wonke ngaphansi kwenhlangano yezizwe lugujwa ngomhla ka-18 April, kanti lapha eningizimu silugubha ziwu-24 kumandulo, ekuyinyanga lapho ama-Afrika ebungaza ukungena konyaka omusha njengoba sibona indalo kwenzeka kwindalo la ngaphandle. Hlonishwa Somlomo, ngingekangeni kakhulu enkulumweni yami, ngivumele ngishutheke isicelo kuwe ukuthi ngelinye ilanga ngokholwa wena lendlu yakho ike idingide izincomo noma iziphakamiso zokunxenxa uhulumeni ukuba amukele ikhalenda yama-Afrika. Ngingesiye umhlonishwa umbishop Dube noma ugobela uNomagegi Majola. Kubukeka sengathi izinkinga eziningi esinazo ezwenikazi leAfrika zidalwa kakhulukazi ukuthi silahlekene nobuntu bethu. Saphakamisa konke lokho esikuboleke kwezinye izizwe. Lokhu engikushoyo lapha mhlonishwa somlomo kufakazelwa yimibiko yabezempilo ekhombisa ukuthi noma sihlaselwe lo mkhuhlane obizwa ngeCovid, kodwa iningi labantu bakithi labo ebebeye batholakale begula ngesikhathi sasebusika behaqwe imikhuhlane ngokuhlukana kwayo. Kulonyaka leso sibalo sibonakala sehle kakhulu. Baqhuba bathi ke enye izimbangela zokuthi kube njalo ukuthi abantu bakithi bathe ngokusaba ukhuvethe lolu babuyela kwizimfundiso ababezithole konina khulu. Mhlonishwa somlomo, isiqubulo salonyaka njengoba eshilo undunankulu emelwe ngumama uNkonyeni sithi Celebrating South Africa's Living Human Treasures. Lesi siqubulo sibiza noma sigqugquzela bonke abemi kweli ukuthi ake zibuye emasisweni sizigqaje siphinde siphakamise noma sibungaze ukubaluleka kwezinkonde nezinkondekazi zethu, izanusi, abalaphi bomdabu nabo bonke labo abakumkhakha wokugcinwa nokuthuthukisa kolwazi lwemvelo. Umongameli wezwe enkulumeni yakhe yesizwe zingu-24 kuMandulo wabeka kanje ngokubaluleka kokuhlonipha amagugu ethu awuluntu. Wathi, kungenxa yabo ukuthi namhlanje sikwazi ukugubha noma ukubungaza lapho sisuka khona, close quote. Kanti yena uMarcus Garvey wathi abantu abangenawo umlando, imvelaphi nesiko bafana nesihlahla esingenazimpande. Somlomo ngime phambi kwakho namhlanje ngibhlungu ngoba isifundazwe sakithi silahlekelwe kakhulu zingqalabutho kulomkhakha nakwimikhashana eminingana. Ngingabala kubo ubaba uJoseph Shabalala wemambazo amnyama, isanusi njengoba eshilo umama Nkonyeni, uVusamazulu Muthwa owazalwa kuso lesi sifundazwe, engaba nenhlanhla yokuthi esaphila ngakwazi ukuthi ngicobelele ulwazi oluthile kuyena. Siphinde futhi salahlekelwa lapha ngubaba uPhelelani Mnomiya owaziwa kakhulu njengecomposer yomculo wamakhwaya ezweni lonke nangaphandle kwase-South Africa. Silahlekelwe kakhulu ngumculi uSteve Fatah, salahlekelwa nguPeter Engblom, uformer director wethu walapha eDurban Art Gallery, ubaba uWelcome Somi, kanye ne-archivist umnumzana uNkosenye Ngidi. Lokhu ke somlomo kukhombisa ngokusobala ukuthi labo abasaphila kubalulekile ukuthi sibaphathe okwezikhali zamantungo. Hlonishwa somlomo, njengesizwe asibhekene nje kuphela nomthelela wobhubhane lwecorona kumnotho wesizwe, kodwa sibhekene nanesihlava esibi sokuhlukunyezwa nokubulawa kwabesifazane kanye nezingane zamantombazane, ekuyinto eyichilo elikhulu kwisizwe esimnyama. Umlando uyasitshela ukuthi kwakuthi ngaphambilini noma kusempini uma insizwa iphelelwa ngamandla, uma ike yabalekela kunina ayibe sathintwa ngoba indlu emnyama iyamhlonipha umuntu wesifazane njengenzala abantu. Siyakholelwa ke kakhulu singikhongolo sesomlomo ukuthi nakuba lolu daba lubukeka lunzima, isiko lingadlala indima enkulu yokuvimbela lolu dlame. Uhulumeni kuzodingeka ukuba asungule noma aqinise izinhlelo zezamasiko ezikhona esifundazweni. Izinhlelo ezifana nokucobelelana ngamasiko, izinhlelo ezihlanganisa izizukulwane, amasiko namaciko ehlukene, kanye nezinhlelo zocwaningo okuhloswe ngazo ukuhlonza nokuqeda inhlese yazo zonke izihlava ezikhungethe imiphakathi. Ngibala nalo udlame lolo bhekiswe kubantu besifazane. Somlomo, kusukela ekufikeni kokuqala kwabamhlophe eNingizimu Afrika kanye nohulumeni abalandela lapho ngaphambi ka-1994, izwe lakithi lalilokhu likhungethwe ukwahlukana nezingxabano phakathi kwabomdabu kanye nabokufika okuyibona abafundi baba ngabanikazi bezinqubo zencindezelo nokwakha uhlelo lomnotho wesizwe olubukela phansi ukubaluleka kwesakhiwo somndeni. Kunamhlanje somlomo sikhuluma nje sinenqwaba yezingane ezikhula ngaphandle kwesisekelo esifanele. Umlando kaKhongolose wokuhlonipha amasiko ehlukene nobuzwe bunye kucace bha kumuntu wonke ukuthi afunde noma abone. Isibonelo umqulu wenkululeko owakhelwe ezisekelweni zamasiko ehlukene kanye nokungacwasani ngobuhlanga. Isigaba 1B something is disturbing me. Isigaba 1B somthethosisekelo weRepublic sigcizelela ukubaluleka kwamasiko ehlukene kwizwe lethu. Iningizimu Afrika yizwe eliqhakambisa ubuliminingi njengamazwe amaningi ezwenikazi lase-Afrika. Sinezilimi eziningi zomdabu ezikhulunywa ezifundazweni nasezifundeni ezahlukene lapha KwaZulu-Natal. Ngakho-ke siyazi isidingo sokuqinisa imizamo yokuthuthukisa izilimi zabomdabu ezazincishwe amathuba ngaphambilini. Mhlonishwa somlomo, inqubo nombono weningizimu Afrika eqhakambisa intando yeningi isho ukuthi thina njengezakhamizi sifika nezethu izilimi, izinkolelo kanye nemibono ngomhlaba. Yilesi sizathu esenza ukuba umthethosisekelo unikeze zonke izilimi eziyishumi-nanye ezikhulunywayo ezweni amalungelo alinganayo ukuba semthethweni. Inhloso phakathi kokunye ukuqinisekisa ukuthi zonke izakhamizi zibamba iqhaza ngokulinganayo ezinqumeni ezinomthelela ezimpilweni zabo zansuku zonke kanye nokwenyusa isimo sezilimi zomdabu zifane nalezo ezazithuthukiswa phambilini okuyilwimi lesilungu nelwimi lesibhunu. UKhongolose uyazamkela izinyathelo ezithathwe ngumphathiswa wezamasiko umphathiswa uHlengiwe Mavimbela sokubuyekeza inqubomgomo yezilimi yesifundazwe. Siyakuqaphela futhi ukuthi le nqubomgomo manje seyamkela izilimi eziyisithupha njengezilimi ezisemthethweni zesifundazwe. Le nqubomgomo ekhona seyengeze isiSuthu nesiSwati ebezingekho kwinqubomgomo yezilimi ka-2008. Sinethemba elikhulu lokuthi zonke izikhungo zikahulumeni ezikhona esifundazweni sethu zizoyemukela le nqubomgomo ebuyekeziwe futhi ziqinisekise ukuthi iyaqaliswa ukusebenza ngempumelelo. Siyocela ke somlomo ukuthi sishaya mthetho sithole imbiko njalo yokuthi le nqubomgomo isebenza kanjani kwisifundazwe sethu. Sinxuse futhi umnyango we-Arts and Culture.
Honorable Speaker Saphetha, uchaba linxesha Mamdon.
The next speaker for 2 minutes is Honorable
niwaphuze bahlonishwa amanzi azolisiza ey'nkingeni nibhekene nazo. Abanye banawo kodwa baney'nkinga ababhekene nazo. Niwaphuze bahlonishwa.
Mhlonishwa somlomo njengoba sihlale sigubha inyanga yamagugu nyaka yonke, naku kumele sikulungise nokuba siqondise. Njengoba nje kulezi insuku ezidlulileyo kube ihlazo nechilo nokuyisa ukuthi SABC asivezele umlando ohlanekezelwe ngesilo sakwaDukuza. Kumele kufundiswe abakhulayo okuyiko nokwenzeka, hayi kubukeke isilo sakwaDukuza kwakuyisilo esinonya nendluzula kanti umlando uphenikezelwe ngabelungu. Kumele izingane zifundiswe ziphasiswe futhi ngolimi lwazo isikhathi side zingenile enkululekweni, ngoba lokho kuyobanika ukuba bazigqaje bona ngobona babo mazifunda ziphase ngolimi lwabo lomdabu. Kulungiswa amagama ezakhiwo nemfula namadolobha nezindawo uqondiswe imibhalo kusiswe imibhalo esabiza abelungu lokho kuyokwenza ukuthi bafunde kangcono abantwana sekuyisikhathi sokugcina nokuvikela izilwane zethu nemithi nezitshalo ukuze abafikayo bafike konke lokhu kuwumlando obhalwe phansi ongeke ucishwe sicacise indima yezingcina mlando namagugu kanye nodaba lwamakhosi nabelaphi bendabuko ukuze abafikayo bakuthole. Thank you.
The next speaker for 2 minutes is Honorable Esther Rajbansi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Heritage Month theme 2020, celebrating South Africa's living treasures, celebrates more than 3 types of heritage, that is cultural, natural, and mixed. Therefore, the Minority Front welcomes the celebration of the 3 outstanding South African women. People Heritage, honorable members in South Africa, gives our country its multiracial or diverse cultures. And I believe that the time is right for us to have a more progressive process in government in terms of, certificates or these trophy recognitions for the contribution of our people to the development of South Africa. The current SARA projects are welcomed. However, the halted renaming of existing structures needs further debate, as this is what the MF was told recently by the eThekwini Council. Of course, I think Msunduzi may have a different policy with regard to Edendale, as was reported now, but we still have praise singers, honorable members of our colonial past. There are people who believe that there shouldn't be certain names that should be changed and they should be retained. For example, the Chatsworth Township or the Higginson Highway, and the Minority Front will continue to call for these names to be changed. The MA believes in nation building and social cohesion through people heritage recognition. Our late leader, the Honorable Mr. Rajbansi, contributed immensely to the development of our communities, and we cannot overlook his contribution pre and post democracy. The late Mr. Rajbansi interacted with greats like Robert Resha when he was in the ANC Youth League. As a minister, MEC of Sports and Recreation, he ensured that sports, was used to develop and unite our people and preserve our traditions. For example, KZN excelled in the indigenous games, among so many other of his achievements in government, political, and community work. So, Honourable Premier, in your absentia, due political consideration must be given fairly for our rich heritage to be inclusive for the contribution of progressive politicians across party lines.
Mrs.
Yes, Speaker.
Your time has lapsed, my honourable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The next speaker for 2 minutes is Honourable M.E. Pagati of the ATM.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Somlomo ngivumele ngisho izwi elilodwa bese ngihlala phansi ungazungikhuza. Elami nje lokuthi azibuye emasisweni. Njengoba sigubha lenyanga yamagugu, konke ungamagugu ethu akubuyele kithi. Ingane zethu zizokwazi ukufunda ukuthi ukusenga yini. Ukuze kwenzeke ke lokho Somlomo kuyofanele umhlaba wethu ubuyele kuthina. Ukuze ingane zethu zifunde ukuthi ukulusa yini. Ngithande Somlomo ukuthi ngicele ukuthi njengoba iSouth Africa kweyethu sonke abakhulumayo bakhulume ngamagugu abo, bangakhulumi ngamagugu abanye, ngoba sonke phela kuvumelekile ukuthi siveze amagugu ethu. Angingasebenziswa le platform ukuthi kunxenxwe abantu bakithi ukuthi banamathele kwabanye. Siyabonga.
The next speaker is, according to the speakers, is Honorable S.E. Manqele of the ACDP. Honorable S.E. Manqele has just alerted the table staff that he was not aware of this debate. I have seen my Honorable Dube, my because I have seen the order paper, in fact, the sitting program since the beginning of last week. It has been including it. Have I not seen it, I was going to call to order the whip of the minorities. But in this instance, I call to order the honorable member who took the oath of office as a public representative to serve the people of KwaZulu-Natal. And it's not the responsibility of the whip to read the correspondence that comes to an individual member. It is a responsibility of all individual members to do that. We will move to the next speaker, but we will also have a conversation with the honorable member. The next speaker, therefore, for 10 minutes is Honorable R.R. Pillay of NEC R.R. Pillay of the ANC for 10 minutes. NEC Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and greetings to the honourable members. It is indeed a privilege to be speaking on behalf of the ANC this very important debate.
We can hear you, NEC.
Thank you. I must say it was quite pleasing to hear all the speakers with their very powerful messages of unity and cohesion. Light and note, for the first time I heard the Honourable Walla speak about the National Democratic Society in the passionate way he was speaking, and the Honourable Papa spoke about some of our history. And I think that is a good thing, contributing to showing people want to see sometimes a departure from the tough and rough side of the politics to the soft side of things, which really inspires people. That's not to say we must negate the truth, very much to the opposite, because it's only when we speak the truth that the foundations shall be strong. Indeed, as the ANC, we seek to build the National Democratic Society, united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. That is our mission, and we seek to unite the broadest range of South Africans behind this effort. KwaZulu-Natal today is, according to Stats South Africa, a province of some 11.5 million people. We sometimes forget that and want to speak from a particular narrow trench. And there are many of us, of course, who argue that we are more than that there are those who are in Gauteng, but really have their homes here, whose children school here, and who regard KZN as their home, with all the linkages here with us in KZN. So we are indeed a diverse province, with each national group adding a significant rich diversity factor. A rich history indeed, from the cave paintings of the Khoisan, which can be found in KZN. The migration patterns from Central Africa find expression in our province. The role of the legendary King Shaka in uniting diverse clans and tribes is well documented. And as has been said, the battles of Isandlwana are major historical landmarks. So too, the Anglo-Zulu and Anglo-Boer wars are a matter of significant historical importance. Of course, the discovery of gold and diamonds in the then Transvaal was arguably the most significant development of the time because of its demand for cheap labor, giving birth to the migrant labor system that caused severe damage to our historically strong family system. Perhaps the last rebellion of that era, the Bombata Rebellion, and I must choose my words carefully because some would want to call it a rebellion, an uprising, a revolution, whatever the terminology, the immediate cause of which was the poll tax, but undoubtedly part of a greater resistance to colonialism, was significant not only for the scale of the rebellion, the heroism of the resistors, and subsequent imprisonment of many of its leaders, but it's also argued that this was the battle that most tellingly made the point that the colonial powers had mastered the art of divide and rule, that the colonial powers with their superior weapons and logistics would reign supreme as long as the people were divided. Thus far, until then, each geographic area had waged separate battles, whether in KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape, the Free State, the Eastern Cape, Lesotho, or Limpopo. Of course, in 2010, the Union of South Africa formalized that colonialism of a special type. And it is therefore to the original credit of our movement that the African National Congress was formed primarily to unite the African people under a single banner. And that's where I think that some, not all, one perhaps party misunderstands the nature of our organization when our people call it Umbutho Wesizwe. It gives it a special meaning beyond that of an ordinary political party. I'm not saying that to claim any superiority, but to understand how deeply in the psyche of our people the African National Congress is embedded. Even Nkosi Buthelezi would claim with pride his roots in the Youth League of the African National Congress of that time. And this becomes the first lesson still relevant today. The unity of all our people is central to the reason for the existence of the African National Congress, and one of the reasons it has endured for more than 108 years today. Of course, the time allocated for this input does not allow for deeper reflection on the nature and character of the ANC of the time, but suffice to say that our leading figures were traditional leaders, religious leaders, and the intellectuals of the time. Of course, in our province, the English as the colonial power were to make a direct input on the cause of history in our province. Even at the height of Afrikaner-controlled apartheid, our province had a distinct English character. But the difference was only in form and style. The fundamentals of oppression were the same. And most systematic or most significant was the systematic exclusion of indigenous people from the best land and, may I say, water. Sir Theophilus Shepstone was a ruthless executed this policy, where the best land in the province was reserved for a small minority. The arrival of indentured Indian laborers in 1860 was another significant milestone. Of course, they were followed by a smaller number of the so-called passenger Indians. Indentured labor was a harsh, oppressive system, and struggles grew out of this oppression. So in 1894, the Natal Indian Congress was formed to lead those particular struggles. And the NIC led the passive resistance campaign and later joined hands with the ANC in the Defiance campaign, leading ultimately to the adoption of the Freedom Charter. And this leads us to the question of identity and how the Freedom Charter has helped us to affirm our own identity. Most will say today, and quite correctly, that we are South Africans first before we are anything else. But we also have multiple identities. I could say for me personally, yes, I'm a human being. I'm a citizen of the world. I'm then an African. I'm a South African. I'm a KwaZulu-Natalian. I'm a South African of Indian origin. I'm of a Hindu broad category, and I'm also a Tamilian. And we must be proud of these multiple identities, but understand where it falls in the hierarchy of things. Let me also pay tribute to the South African Communist Party, which was actually the first truly non-racial political organization of the time. And the SACP deserves our historical gratitude for this legacy of non-racialism, and indeed their class analysis and their overall analytical skills over decades. But the SACP too was clear about theory and practice and produced the most advanced cadres in mass work, the underground, the unions, and the armed struggle. I want to also pay tribute to the organized labor movement from the days of SACTU to later on COSATU and the subsequent unions. The formation of COSATU in Durban in 1985 was a direct and physical presence that challenged the apartheid system of the time. Of course, COSATU was part of the Congress-led MDM, and COSATU and its affiliates grew in strength because of a combination of organizational work, taking democratic practices and worker control to levels never seen before. COSATU was a leading site of political thought, theory, and practice. It's perhaps appropriate to recall that Joe Slovo said, and I quote, "It has been demonstrated that no system, not even the most inhuman, can continue to exist without an ideology." And we ask, what is the ideology that binds us today? And I think many speakers have correctly spoken to it. I would, of course, trace it back to the founding document of the Freedom Charter, and that has found expression in our Constitution and to the National Development Plan, which we're all trying to implement today. But of course, under that overarching ideological framework, everything is still in motion. We contest our ideas, we contest the implementation. The NDP says, and as part of, says, and I quote, it asks, who are we? We are Africans. We are an African country. We are part of our multinational region. We are an essential part of our continent. Being Africans, we are acutely aware of the wider world, deeply implicated in our past and present. That wider world carries some of our inheritance. We have learned a great deal from our complex past, adding continuously to our experience of being African.
Thank you, MEC.
Is my time up?
Yes, MEC.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for the Honorable MEC NP Konyeni to respond to the debate. MEC Konyeni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And let me appreciate all members of the Provincial Legislature who have participated in this most important debate. Indeed, I will start off by appreciating Honorable Mavimbela, the MEC for the Department of Sports and Recreation, Arts and Culture, for her contribution towards this debate. She actually indicated what is reflected in the Freedom Charter with regards to what we are celebrating today, the Heritage Month. And I so wish, Honorable Mavimbela, that each and every school-going learner would be exposed to what is contained in that very important document, which is called the Freedom Charter. And again, you also reflected on the book that was authored by Steve Biko, which is titled, I Write What I Like. I hope and believe, Honorable Mavimbela, that in all public libraries that the department is establishing across the province, that book, that very important book, is available for our people to read and for our children to also go through. You also indicated that the department has accommodated other languages as we are in a process of promoting multilingualism in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. That is highly appreciated because it is true that there are many languages that are spoken here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Sizobuka ke ukuthi kwi-promotion yalawo ma-languages yini eyenzakalayo nokuthi yona i-department yenze njani. And of course, it is quite exciting that the program of initiating that initiative, which is referred to as One Township, One Book, has been initiated by your department. We will have to encourage our writers to write about their townships. I can imagine what will come out of Gamalake Township, whereby people were removed from areas like Evungu, Emagate, kwezinye indawo nje as along the ocean bayobekwa lapha emadwaleni ematsheni egama lakhe emagogogweni. In fact, we need to encourage Tina nawe Somlomo, no Honorable Nzwaki, no Honorable Nomakiki, Honorable Siboniso, ukuthi abantu mababhale ngazo zonke lezi zinto kanjalo futhi namanye amalungu eshamthetho ahlala kwezinye indawo naziyo ngomlando ukuthi ake kubhalwe ngokuthi sisuka phi size sifike lapho sikhona. And indeed the department is also promoting cultural tourism. Sibonile eqaleni ngesikhathi sikhuluma mhlonishwa ukuthi ziningi indawo ezingenza ukuthi abantu bakithi bazuze, including into rural tourism lapho sixoxela khona ivakashi zethu ngokuthi senzani ukudla esikudlayo amasiko ethu sibagqugquzele nabo nje ukuthi bahambele ezethu indawo bangagcini emadolobheni. Mangidlulela ke umhlonishwa uGwala ukhulume kahle umhlonishwa uGwala nakuba ngasekugcineni ubeseqala lo mkhuba wakhe wokuxova kodwa kukhulume kahle ekuqaleni ekhuluma ngokuthi kuhle kufundiswe abafana ukuthi indlela yokuyiphatha bekhula baze bafikele ezingeni lokuba amadoda kufanele ukuthi kwenziwe kanjani. Siyavumelana nawe kakhulu kuyinto ekufanele ukuthi ngabe iyenziwa vele njengoba namantombazana enziwa eqeqeshwa ngalelo hlobo. Ngakho ke sonke kumsebenzi wethu akuwona umsebenzi womnyango kuphela ukuthi fanele kwenziwe kanjalo. Indeed, the ANC-led government is in the forefront of fighting against the gender-based violence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and throughout the country. We have seen our premier talking about it. We have seen our premier visiting the victims of violence throughout the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And into fanele ukuthi ngabe iyenzeka ukuthi sonke silwe kanjalo futhi nama traditional leaders fanele alwe nokuhlukumezeka kwabantu besifazane futhi agqugquzele ukuthi amasiko ethu anganyamalali kanjalo nezilimi zethu zinganyamalali. Honorable Papios impela ukhulume kahle naye siyakubonga kakhulu nakuba ke acabanga ukuthi khona kufanele ukuthi kufihlwe especially about the colonial rulers and colonial masters who came over to our country. It's a history that needs to be preserved so that we avoid its repeat. It should never happen again, as it was not even supposed to have happened in the initially, whereby people would come to a country and become so brutal, and inflict pain to indigenous people. Obatola lapo. It should never happen. It should never ever be allowed again. It is rearing its ugly head in other parts of South Africa, and we should all condemn that. So that we all promote social cohesion, we promote peace, we promote tranquility in our country. Yes, it is all about the Freedom Charter, which came about from the bleeding wounds of Black African people who were forced to abandon their families and their land so that they may work for the white people in their own country. Into embi kakhulu ke engafanele ukuthi iphinde yenzeke. Umhlonishwa uSibhidla siyabonga kakhulu nami ngiyahambelana kakhulu nalokho akusho ukuthi hayibo yindaba silokhu salandelana namakhalenda ezizwe like the Gregorian calendar that we are all using right now. Ibe ikhona ikhalenda yethu yama-Afrika ase-Afrika, and nami Somlomo ngiyafisa ukuthi ngelinye ilanga ke ixoxwe le ndaba yekhalenda njengoba i-African calendar njengoba eyibekile umhlonishwa uSibhidla Saphetha. Ezinye izizwe zihlonipha kakhulu ama-calendars abo like the Mayan calendar. In Asian countries in particular, but thina sayiyeke yethu sagijimela izinto zezinye izizwe ongeyona ke into ekufanele ukuthi ngabe siyayincoma. Siyabonga kakhulu futhi ukuzwa ukuthi iyanconywa indaba yokueda ezinye izilimi khona lapha KwaZulu-Natal kuyasigqugquzela sonke. Umhlonishwa umlotshwa yebo siyavumelana kakhulu nawe ukuthi akezi buyelene emasisweni abantu bafundiswe ngokuyiphatha, bafundiswe ngamasiko abo, bafundiswe ngezilimi zabo kunokuthi sigijimele izilimi zabanye abantu. Kanjalo futhi nomhlonishwa uphakathi ukhulume kanjalo, wakhuluma ngokuthi azibuyeleni emasisweni. Siyakubonga kakhulu ngoba sonke sibuka ngendlela efanayo yokuthi asiyeni kubantu siyokhuluma nabo ukuthi masiyeke indaba yokukhohlwa ukuthi siphumaphi. Masiqeqeshe abantwana bethu sikhumbule nathi ukuthi yiziphi indlela esasiphila ngazo ezazenza ukuthi siphile impilo engcono kunalempilo esiphila njengamanje. Honorable Pillay, thank you very much, my dear comrade, for all your contribution. Indeed, we will remain united if we promote our cultural heritage in the Republic of South Africa and also acknowledge all what has happened in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I apologize, Honorable Shamin Thakur Nakusengweka. Bayo bakhona abanye abayocabanga ngomhlonishwa uRajbansi ne contribution yakhe emlandweni walapha KwaZulu-Natal. Hayi yena yedwa nabanye ababamba iqhaza emlandweni waKwaZulu-Natal. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Thank you, Honorable MC. Thank you to you, honorable members. That was the last of our orders for the day. I have a few announcements to make. Honorable members, immediately after the adjournment of this sitting, there is a briefing by the FFC. The presentation is virtual. However, members may remain behind and just they use the same link as that one that was provided of the sitting. The chair for today's sitting, for the briefing will be Honorable Governor. The presentation will be sent to honorable members electronically. So we are free to use the venue, honorable members, just connect so that we don't get into conflict with the law, as we will be linking and then driving. Honorable members, the legislature issued banners for members. Those banners are to be used when you are linking from on a virtual platform. You are not going to come to the house. We noticed that today the majority of our speakers were not using the background of the legislature. Wherever you are, it remains a fact that you are in the legislature. There is an alternative that you use the physical background of the legislature or you use the electronic version. This is applicable to both ordinary members and to members of the executive, so that we don't run into problems with the type of background that you are using. We all must use the background of the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. I am just pleading with the whips of parties to ensure that the members of your party that are on the speakers list, you at least ensure that they remember the background to be sorted. Those that have not yet received the banners, if it so happens that there are members who have not received the physical banners, the office of the Chief Whip of the Legislature must be contacted so that it sorts that. Our understanding is that everybody by now should have received the banner of the Legislature. Honorable members, with that said, thank you for your participation and thank you that we meet and find that we are still here. The House is adjourned until the 22nd of October, and the details of the exec sitting will be communicated to honorable members.
Order, Madam Speaker.